Hello, CF Kids! Gabby here, and today I get to bring you the true story of Zeki and Ellie. Well, let's call them by their real names, out of respect, of course. This story from the Bible tells us about two real people, Zechariah and Elizabeth. Both of them came from a long line of priests. What are priests? I got you. Well, priests were people who took care of the temple, a place where God's presence would dwell, and these priests would obey and serve the Lord. These were good peeps. So naturally, Zechariah and Elizabeth both loved the Lord and obeyed God's laws faithfully. Things were good, with the exception that they wanted a baby, but Elizabeth and Zechariah were old, and they had never had a baby. So they waited and waited and waited and waited. Okay, you get the point. Now one day, Zechariah was chosen to go into the temple to burn incense. That was a very special job back then. While he went in, all the people gathered outside the temple to worship God. Dun, dun, dun. Then Zechariah was praying to God, an angel of the Lord appeared inside the temple. So here's what the Bible says happened next. Then an angel of the Lord appeared to him, standing at the right side of the altar of incense. When Zechariah saw him, he was startled and was gripped with fear. But the angel said to him, "Do not be afraid. Your prayer has been heard. Your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you are to call him John. He will be a joy and delight to you, and many will rejoice because of his birth." Whoa, talk about shocker. First off, poof, an angel appears out of nowhere. Then bam, he gets told that he and his wife are gonna have a baby even though they're old. For sure, Zechariah was startled and gripped with fear. The angel told Zechariah that his wife will have a baby and that he must call him John. Zechariah was clearly shocked and stunned. Zeki wanted to believe so bad that what the angel was saying was true, but how could he? Elizabeth and him were so old. So Zechariah asked the angel, "How can I be sure of this? I'm an old man and my wife is well along in years." So the angel responded and told Zechariah that because of his unbelief, he would not be able to speak until his child was born. What? After some time, Zechariah came out of the temple, and guess what? He couldn't speak a word. His priest friends were like, "Whoa, you've been in there for such a long time. What happened?" That's right. Zeki, what happened? Silence. His priest friends were so confused as to why he wasn't speaking. But they soon realized that he had seen a vision in the temple because he kept making signs to them, telling them and trying to tell them that he was unable to speak. Eventually, Zechariah went home to his wife Elizabeth and stayed there for several months waiting for the baby to be born. During that time, Mary visited Elizabeth. Mary was Elizabeth's cousin, in case you didn't know, and you'll learn more about that next week. When Mary arrived, knock knock, and called to Elizabeth, the baby inside Elizabeth moved. What? Elizabeth knew at that moment that Mary would be used by God for something very special and important. And in a loud voice, she said, "Blessed are you among women, and blessed is your child that you will bear." But more on that next week. Finally, it came time for Zechariah and Elizabeth's baby to be born, and it was a boy! Woohoo! Just like the angel had said, confetti poppers! Baby still didn't have a name. Could you believe that? These people. So when the people asked, "Hey, what are you gonna name your baby?" They were about to name the baby boy Zechariah, just like his dad. But Elizabeth said, "No, it must be John." What? John? So the people looked at Zechariah to see what he would say, but Zechariah still couldn't speak. Remember what happened to him in the temple? So Zechariah wrote on the wall the name John, and the baby was named John. After that, Zechariah gained his voice back and he could speak again. So Zechariah praised God for all he had done. This baby would grow up and prepare the way for Jesus, which was God's plan all along. At the time, Zechariah and Elizabeth may not have understood why God made them wait so long to have a baby. But as we read this story, we can see that God was always in control. And that's a lesson to all of us. We can have peace because God has a plan.